Well, Scarbs, Ferrari didn't appear with a different nose in Spain, but plenty of other bits and bobs on the car to get our attention there.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think a lot of people have been expecting a new nose, but James Allison has constantly sort of reiterated that that doesn't seem to be high on their agenda. And the car that they turned up with at Barcelona was as close to a B spec, I think, as anyone can describe a car. Nearly every aero surface from the nose backwards had changed to some degree. So massive amount of change at Ferrari. I think there was a suggestion that it was 70% of the car's bodywork had changed, and I certainly would agree that it's around that kind of figure.
And James certainly capitalising on those lovely side pods that he's been running from the start of the year around those very low-angled canted radiators.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole update really is based around the airflow that goes around the sort of the flanks of the car, around the sides of the side pods. And this again goes back to something that we've spoken about several times this year, is Ferrari's really minuscule radiator setup, where they have, as you say, these very flat mounted radiators with all the little louvers attached to the radiator faces to manage the airflow through them, which allows them to get a much lower, slimmer radiator. And that the key change to the car this weekend was taking advantage of just that. And the outer shoulder of the side pod, as you can see there, has been dropped right down, almost in line with the side impact structure, which is that sort of horizontal spar inside the side pod that just pokes through the little bulge in the top corner of the side pod, which means Ferrari's side pods are much lower. And this means that you get much better airflow round to the back of the car, which reduces drag, first of all, because you've got less frontal area obstruction to the airflow. But equally, because you're getting better airflow to the back, you're starting to improve your aero efficiency, so you can produce more downforce for the same amount of drag. And it's all a key part of improving the airflow around the car.
And it's interesting that given the relatively high ambient temperatures and track temperatures in Spain, that even though there's all this work going on and they've got this pretty small, low radiator setup now, not an inkling of overheating at all.
No, absolutely not. The Ferrari, I mean, they did open up some of the little outlets just around the cockpit side, which is fairly standard. But overall, the car still uses a very small inlet and outlet package, which is in contrast to much of the opposition. I mean, Mercedes, for example, in the test this week actually added extra cooling inlets around the roll hoop, which would arguably be a retrograde step in terms of aero performance. So Ferrari seems to have definitely a jump on everyone else in this area.
And what else have they done on the car commensurate with those radiator mods?
Well, I mean, if we start sort of front to rear, the front wing and the nose were much the same. So everything from that bulkhead backwards. So we start with the front brake ducts. They changed. There was a slightly different, or a very different vane that's mounted to the inside of the front brake ducts, almost like on a little outrigged arm. This vane just catching the airflow off the front wing to turn it around the back of the wheels, and obviously then around the flanks of the side pods. The turning vanes and the barge boards were both changed. The barge boards, Ferrari's probably Ferrari's first version of a barge board that has vertical splits in them, and these are aimed to allow the barge board both to be turned much more aggressively from being pointed straight ahead at the front to twisting around to the side of the side pods, and it also changes the vortices that come off the top edge of it as well. So quite a complex design there, something quite new for Ferrari. The vertical vanes around the front of the side pods have changed as well. So they've added a new vane that goes from the cockpit halfway across the side pod, and then the one that normally goes has to come down much lower to meet the lower side pods. Obviously, there's the side pod bodywork and then the top bodywork as well around the engine cover. That's all subtly changed. And then some interesting stuff around the floor of the car. The floor just in front of the rear tyres. Ferrari have had a L-shaped slot in there since the middle of last year. They've actually downsized that L-shaped slot but added 2 extra slots, and this is what we know as tyre squirt slots, and these are to prevent the airflow that hits the rear tyres going sideways and wrecking the diffuser performance. So Ferrari have changed that. And then as the floor continues to form the diffuser at the back of the car, you can then see incredibly small detail. A tiny little 2-element winglet, probably no more than an inch or two in size on the top corner of the diffuser. Again, just tweaking the airflow very slightly as it snakes around the sides of the cars. Yeah, Nearly everything has changed, and it's all about one massive flow structure that goes around the flanks of the cars. So big changes for Ferrari, and I think as the weekend went on, I think it's quite clear that maybe they had changed a little bit too much and weren't entirely clear where the car was in terms of performance with this new setup.
Yes, it was interesting in the end to see Kimi running the A-spec radiators, for want of a better word. But do we know how much of the other mods were on Kimi's car?
Well, as far as I can see, Kimi's car went back to the pre-Barcelona setup. I mean, I didn't notice any of the new bits on there at all because they appear to come as a package. So Kimi was running what would have been described as the Bahrain spec, I guess, and Vettel was running the latest spec. And as much as they weren't sure quite what the performance difference was, we spoke to Dave Greenwood after the race, and he certainly pointed to Kimi's apparent lack of pace during the race as a direct result of running this lesser spec bodywork. So, as the test went on this week, they kept this new spec on, and I think this is what they're going to run forwards with for the next few races.
Great. Well, thanks for that, Scars. We look forward to seeing what Ferrari produce, if anything, now for Monaco. Unlikely they'll be doing anything dramatic, although I suppose we might see something in the monkey seat department.
Yeah, I mean, I think for everyone, there'll be, whatever they can do to maximise downforce at any cost for Monaco is still important. But increasingly, Monaco nowadays can be coped with by their standard packages. It's rare that someone can find something that really is an extra add-on for the car.